Hello, it is on this day, August 18th, 2022, that I'm just answering some quick questions about myself that some friends gave me, and I just wanted a short video this week. I've had a lot going on, so figured we'd just be very short and straight today. Wow. And I can't even do English, so very short video. Question number 1. How did I get the name Cove? Did I name myself? Etc., etc. I did not name myself. Cove is actually a part of my birth name. I was named after a cove in California, and so my first name was the first part of that cove, and my middle name was the name Cove. So when I kind of came out to myself as trans, I was like, I really like my middle name. I like how it sounds. I like the story behind it. I like the idea of a cove. They're usually really pretty, and you know, all that, those kinds of things. So why not go by Cove? It's already on my documentation as my middle name. It's just ideal. So I tried it out for a while. I didn't jump right in. I did try it out. And some people jokingly did call me Cove in high school because they just really liked the name. So it wasn't the first time I was like adopting it as a nickname, but I wasn't used to everybody referring to me as it. So it took time. It wasn't immediate. I was still used to my first name for a long while, but I've reached the point now where I'm more used to my middle name than my first name, and it just sounds better. So I'm pretty much just going by my middle name, and yeah, that's just how I got my name. I did have a backup name, probably was going to be Mock, just because it's a username that's used to, but never had to use it because I just liked my middle name enough. Question number 2. People ask me, what feeling I had to know that I wasn't the gender I was assigned at birth. And you could get into my transgender video, you can get into my dysphoria video, and one day I will do my story video for my transgender identity. But the short and the long is that I found out I had the hints for a long time. I had a lot of instincts. I referred to myself as a tomboy for a while as a kid, which isn't the best of terms. People can identify as tomboy, but the way society uses it isn't the best way, and people did judge me for that. So I had the hints for a long time. I mean, I bought a men's watch when I was in high school, but I still never really accepted it until kind of the middle of the summer last year, and that wasn't as trans, that was just as my gender isn't female. And I just knew my gender wasn't female because I was thinking about how I wanted people to perceive me. I was thinking about how people interacted with me, and I thought about what I think I was, and I just started to feel that I just wasn't female. It wasn't that I felt like I was something else at first. I just felt I wasn't female, and I knew, okay, there's something wrong here, something just feels off here, so we're just gonna use some other terms. We're gonna adopt non-binary, and etc., etc. And so it took me some time to explore what I did feel like I was, but really at first it started off with my knowledge of I am not this. So that's generally how I found out that I wasn't the gender I was assigned at birth. Someone else asked, how does dysphoria interfere with my daily life? Ooh, this one hurts a little bit. So generally dysphoria doesn't really interrupt my life. Like generally, you know, I'm not feeling the most dysphoria right now. I'm feeling a little bit. I have to reflect on it. I'm feeling a little bit. Not the most, but a little bit. Generally just like not feeling content, but I can still function. I can still move on with my life most of the time. The second stage is the medium kind of dysphoria. This usually happens when I'm at home. Usually happens when I'm looking at mirrors. I just get upset. I get moody. I'm not necessarily, again, not functioning. It's not really interfering necessarily. Any happy feelings I had go away, and I just feel moody. I may be a little bit more sharp in my words and how I interact with people. when I am really, really, really feeling dysphoria, like really feeling it, it really does interfere with my daily life. And those times, I've had 2 of them where I was like out and about on campus when it hit, and it just started to hit and hit and hit, and it started really hurting. And once it was during a meeting with my project group, and I was just trying to back away, and I just started crying. I can't, when this happens, I just can't control my crying. I just can't. So I was just trying to back away from the group and like hide my tears, like looking up at the ceiling so they like wouldn't go, and all those kinds of things. And then as soon as the meeting was over, I just speed walked straight to my dorm and face planted on the bed and, you know, had my session. But those times, it hurts so much. I can't control all the emotions that are coming through. Seeing other people, seeing cis men especially, amplifies it in those moments. So if I'm out and about when it hits like that, it can hit really hard. It can really mess with my emotions, and it really can interfere with my day. It hasn't happened during class before. It's always either been when I'm walking out and about or during that meeting, which was just a short walk from my dorm, so I was able to go right back. But I'm somewhat scared of the day that it happens like during class. If it does, I'd probably just leave class and just head to my dorm. It's just that kind of situation, I just can't deal with it, really. I just have to go back to my room and just wait it out and just let it out. But yeah, that's the only case that it interferes with my daily life, and that's only happened 3 times total, is when I've had it that bad. Otherwise, it's something I can work through. It's something I can just keep living my life through. Ooh, someone asked an interesting question. They asked if my having they them pronouns in my like little description means that I'm non-binary. So in some places I have he they pronouns, in other places I have he him pronouns. Generally he him for me, but I don't mind being called they. And it's not because I'm non-binary, it's just I don't mind the pronoun. And I don't feel upset with the pronoun. I don't feel like the pronoun's wrong. I think the pronoun is still kind of accurate to me. So I sometimes include they in my pronouns, but it doesn't mean I'm non-binary. So if people who aren't non-binary or are just literally any gender can use the pronouns they them if they prefer that. Cis people, if they identify as cis, can still be comfortable with the pronouns they them. It depends on that person, but they can say that to people. They can say, hey, I'm comfortable with she her pronouns or she they pronouns, but I'm still cis and I identify as cis. So yeah, that's an interesting question, and I hadn't thought about addressing that before. But your pronouns don't necessarily have to mean that you're suddenly in this block. So he they, for me, trans man is my gender identity. And kind of to build on that a little bit, when I thought I was non-binary, I actually went by any pronouns, not just they them. I wasn't the most comfortable with being called it. It's not my favorite pronoun for me personally, but you know, if someone said it, I would just take it in and be like, am I okay with that? It only happened like twice, and one of them was like not actually disrespectful. It was just genuinely using the pronoun because I said any pronouns. And it's just not my favorite. So after a while I started just saying she, his, they, but rather than just list it, I would say any pronouns except it were fine by me. I did look into neo-pronouns for a while. I should have a pronouns video. I did look into neo-pronouns for a while, but they honestly, and most people will tell you this, they are like hard to explain to people. Like trying to get people to use them is very hard. And that's why a lot of people just struggle with them. Some people want to use them, but it's just the fact that nobody understands them, nobody uses them, and it's that much more effort that a lot of people end up not using them. So yeah, we should do a pronouns video. Ooh, so which of my family coming out or friend coming out stories is the funniest? A lot of mine were straightforward, but I do think it's funny. When I came out to my aunt, I came out to my aunt's Um, I came out to my aunt and uncle at the same time, and aunt, uncle, aunt. I came out to all three of them at the same time, and I assumed that the other one told their husband. And I did it in like a group text thing because they live in another state, so I wasn't going to do it in person. And my aunt's response was, "You're so, like, I'm so proud of you. Like, you're so brave for what you did. Have $50 for queso." So she gave me a $50 gift card for Torchy's, and I always get queso. And now it's actually become a tradition. She keeps giving me Torchy gift cards. But I think that was funny that was her reaction to my coming out. She was like, "I'm going to give you $50 for queso." That's how you know my family's from Texas. So I think that one's probably my funniest coming out story. Was I stressed when I came out? Definitely when I came out as trans, I was stressed. I had procrastinated it twice at that point. I told my dad that I was using any and all pronouns like a month and a half before, so I knew they would be fine. But like officially coming out to them as trans, I was stressed out of my mind. I really was. And I procrastinated it, and then it was Christmas Eve, and I knew I couldn't come out on Christmas Day. So I was like, I have to come out on Christmas Eve. And so, yeah, I was very worried. I was fidgeting. I stood out in front of them. The movie had just ended. I stood out in front of them and was trying to address them before they all left, just to get it out. And then I was gonna turn and leave, but my parents were like, "No, we have questions." So it was scary, but it ended up working out. Ooh, okay, the last question I got from a friend is asking about my imposter syndrome and what advice I would give to someone who's going through imposter syndrome. And what are things to help you go through it? Oh, that's a hard one. That's a really hard one. If you are feeling imposter syndrome, I have to remind you that there are a lot of different ACE experiences. And even though it doesn't feel that way, even in ACE circles, but especially out of ACE circles with all the stereotypes towards ACE people, I know it feels terrible. I know it's hard because of all that, but not everyone is that way. There are many, many, many other ACE experiences. And the advice I would give you, and this may not be the advice you want, is to see other ACE people, watch videos of ACE people, or reach out and meet other ACE people. I have several subscriptions on my YouTube channel in my recommended subscriptions that are ACE related channels. If you want a ACE education channel, like just all about advice for ACE people, ACE Dad Advice is very great. I recently subscribed to a new ACE channel called Spacey Aces, and they are very entertaining. And they're addressing a lot of the same issues and topics that I am, and so it's fascinating to see them posting some of the things that I'm working on, or working on things that I was gonna do. It's very funny. So you can also check out that resource. There's a lot more ACE channels out there on YouTube. And What's the Safe Word I recommended in my Can ACE People Be Kinky video. He gives a unique perspective, so you can, sorry about that. So he gives a perspective that a lot of other people don't have, and so I recommend sometimes taking the leaps for those different perspectives, even if you don't identify with the labels he identifies. So if you don't identify as kinky, it's still useful to learn about those perspectives and be able to accept the idea that this is an aspec person who just experiences their asexuality differently from other people. So that would be my piece of advice if you're having ACE imposter syndrome, is go out there, look for people. I mean, Avon is an option. I mean, Avon is a place where you can meet some of the people you get along with. Sometimes it can amplify that ACE imposter syndrome. I felt that way. That's why I eventually left. But also during that time period you're there, you can meet other people who are alike. You can meet other people who are alike by watching other YouTube videos, other YouTube channels. And the one I want to emphasize is Sometimes you gotta learn a new perspective, and if you can accept it for other people, it's easier to accept it for yourself, from my perception. So a lot of the steps I've been taking with my different identities is I can accept it for other people. This is okay for other people. Now I just need to teach myself that it's also okay for me. It's okay for me. It doesn't mean I am that, but it's okay for me to be that, and then I can reflect, is that me? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So seeing it for other people is helpful in those kinds of cases. That's the last question I'm going to do today. I'm open to the idea of doing more of these like short question videos in the future if people want to ask questions. A lot of these questions were kind of scattered and like put together last minute, so it's not the most comprehensive video in the world, but in the future, if people do have specific questions for me, I can answer those. That's all I have. If you happen to know me via what school I go to, feel free to meet up with me. And that's all I have, so I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.